25 points, but he was able to give the team a spark, able to play, somewhat to his capabilities. Obviously, the ankle injury really limited his movement, but for him to be able to just get out there, I think meant a lot to his teammates. And, for him to contribute to a championship, he had a big part in games 1 and 2, come back in game 5, and help them get over the top. And I just think for him, he was a major factor this year. They had struggled at the center position for years. Robert Williams, as much as they liked him, he could never really stay healthy and never really developed a game beyond dunks and layups. And they need a more versatile 5. They needed someone who could stretch defenses, who could be a threat, and also defensively be a rim protector. And Kristaps Porzingis checked all those boxes. And with the play of Al Horford, ageless Al Horford, they were able to survive without Kristaps and able to kind of change themselves a little bit without him. And I just thought that was the credit to the Celtics to be able to be such a versatile team to win without him as well as with him.
Boston Globe national writer, covers the NBA, Gary Washburn, joining us. And talk about I love Drew Holiday. I think that guy
a huge Drew Holiday
he's
fan.
Awesome. He's all over the court all season. Then he's like, hey, I'm just a role player here. I think he's getting paid the most on the team, by the way. Your thoughts on that guy, Derek White, even Jaylen Brown during the postseason? Their defense, to me, is what really propelled them this year.
Yeah, they won the NBA Finals with defense. I mean, they held Dallas to 89 points in Game 1, 88 points in Game 5. I mean, they were able to limit that offense. I think the perception before the finals was that Luka Doncic was by far the best player in the series and probably the best player in the world after they beat Minnesota in 5 games. And for them to limit him, and he was obviously able to score. He was obviously able to make plays, and you could still see how amazing of a player he is. But for them to limit him, and especially Jaylen Brown, and then for Drew Holiday to chase Kyrie Irving around, and for him to be able to limit that guy. And so basically Dallas was playing on kind of 1.5 bullets there, 1.5 cylinders, if you may, because they didn't have any support from any of the other guys. And so defense was the key. You could talk about the offense. The offense I thought was okay. I don't think they played great offense during the series, but their defense was stellar in 4 of the 5 games, and that's what won them the series, because their offense is going to be good enough, even though it struggled at times. It was the defense that they needed to rely on, and it came through.
Thoughts on the defense of Derek White? I mean, he had some signature blocks as a guy who I think is like 6'4", and he's blocking Lively at the rim, who's a 7-footer. Was that expected? Like, not only the defense of him, but rim protection from your point guard.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, the chase down block on P.J. Washington in Game 2 that
Right.
might have saved in that game.
Right.
Just an incredible defensive player, a guy who in the 2.5 years he's been in Boston has just grown and improved exponentially. I don't think anyone expected this guy to make this type of impact. He struggled a little bit when he first got to Boston that first half season in the finals. He wasn't at his best, but he has turned into an all-star caliber player, a great defender, and probably the best shot-blocking guard in the league. I don't think it's anything close to that, anybody close to him for that, because he just, you can't ever count him out of a play. He'll chase you down, he'll block you right in front of you. He is just, that has an anticipation for the ball that just gives him an advantage anytime an offensive player tries to shoot the ball in his face.
Gary, tell us about Joe Mazzulla. You cover that guy every day, and you're asking him point blank a bunch of different questions, stuff like that. I love this guy, but at 35 years old, you don't really know a lot about him personally.
Yeah, Joe's a very, I think he showed during the finals, during some of his press conferences, he's an unusual guy. He walks to the beat of his own drum.
Love him.
He has his own way of motivating the players, and it's worked. And I think that the key for him this year was to kind of get across to the players, not as a coach, but more as a big brother type. And I think when you're 35, you're that young, and most of your players, Drew Holiday is I think about to be 34. Al Horford's older than he is, Tatum and Brown are 27, 26. So most of these guys are either around your age or a little bit younger. So your message to them has to be different than, let's say, as a father figure. Like let's say you're playing for Sparky Anderson or something. You're playing for,
Right.
a guy who's old enough to be your grandfather. That's not the case here. So I think he's come across to his players as more of a big brother type, kind of a mentor as opposed to father-son kind of thing. And I think that's what has brought him closer because the players know he's a little wacko at times, an unusual guy, and has his certain ways, but they love him and they want to play for him. And that was critical to their success is just their support of the coach.
I thought Brown and Tatum really stepped up their leadership this year all season long. What about their games may have changed to get this done, to finally get those to a championship?
Jason became a better playmaker. Obviously, he led the team in rebounding and assists the final, as well as scoring. Teams were going to collapse on him, make sure that he didn't beat them with putting the ball in the basket. So he became more of a distributor. And I think that's the one thing about his game that we hadn't seen. We had seen, little hints of it in recent years, but he has really developed into an extremely versatile player offensively, a guy who can hurt you with the pass as well as a shot. And Jaylen Brown has made better decisions, not as turned the ball over as much, improved his handle, and made just an overall better floor game, smarter floor game, when he's not taking on 1-on-3 all the time, not trying to do the hero ball, become a very good mid-range shooter, a better improved three-point shooter, and a guy who's aggressive and attacks the rim, and as well as defense. So both of those guys have stepped up their games over the last recent years, and I think we saw it this year, both playing the best basketball of their careers.
Talking to Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. Let me ask you this, Gary. People were down on these guys. If they don't win a championship, their legacy could be affected and stuff like that. And you could tell it weighed on Tatum and Brown. Talk about that. The playing for the Celtics, trying to get that 18th title, but for these two in particular, there's been some great teams that have won recently. Why is there so much pressure on those two guys in particular to win a championship?
Well, they've been together a long time, and the Celtics have knocked on the door. Remember, they made the finals 2 years ago. They've made 5 Eastern Conference finals between Tatum and Brown total. They lost to the Miami Heat in the bubble. They lost to the Miami Heat last year. They lost twice to the Cavaliers. So it was. I don't think we expected them to make the finals with playing against LeBron and those guys who were more experienced. But when it got to the bubble and a chance to beat Miami and facing Miami twice, and then finally getting past Miami to get to the finals, and then last year, I think there was just high expectations of, okay, when are these guys going to do it? They've got the talent, they've got the personnel, they've got the coaching, they've got seemingly everything that a championship team needs. Well, when is this going to happen? So I think the pressure built, and then both of those guys, Jaylen getting the highest paid player in the league, becoming the highest paid player in the league last summer, and Jason getting all NBA, and people saying, well, when are those guys going to win something? And that's great for them to win all these personal awards, but when are they going to get the ultimate team honor? So I think that's what the pressure mounted on those guys of when is this finally going to happen? And it finally has.
All right, I apologize before I ask you this, Gary, but I don't know when you're coming back. I know Dibbs doesn't like to talk about this. Kurt doesn't like to talk about this, but I know they just won the championship, and we should be celebrating that. I should be asking about the parade. But, again, we might not have you back in a couple of weeks. What does the future hold for 27, 26-year-old Brown and Tatum? What does the future hold for the Boston Celtics after this championship run?
Well, there's no reason to think they can't compete for another championship. They have the personnel, all their core players are back, from obviously Tatum and Brown, Horford, Holiday, Porzingis, even guys like Peyton Pritchard is back. So they're gonna have to probably add to the bench a little bit. They'll probably try to get better, and they have a first round pick coming up next week. So we'll see probably a couple of new faces, but the core is back. So there's no reason why to think that they can't compete for the title next year. There's nobody in the East right now, even healthy, that's better than they are. Milwaukee's got to figure out what they're going to do under Doc Rivers' first full season, but they're a team that really getting older. Philadelphia has a max roster spot available. Who do they use that on, and can they finally get over the hump with Embiid? And then the Knicks are going to be good, but with Tibbs, you never know if some of those guys are going to get hurt. So there's a lot of questions in the East, but there's no reason to think that the Celtics can't get back to the same point next year.
How spoiled are the New England fans between the Patriots? I say as I'm from here, Gare. Red Sox, Yankees, all around here.
UConn.
Man, you just keep winning. UConn back-to-back championships. Man, it's awesome to live on the East Coast sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, was it 6 years since the Boston, when the Patriots beat the Rams in the Super Bowl, was their last championship, and people were saying, "Oh wow, that's been a long time."
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Yeah, for most cities, not really, but
right.
For the Celtics, yeah, I guess so. For Boston, for 5 years, 6 years, so yeah, I mean, it's a great sports town. I mean, there's pressure to win. Like the Red Sox are trying to battle for a wild card. There's pressure on them to get back to the top. Obviously, the Patriots in a rebuild, but there's pressure with a new coach. And then the Bruins, there's expectations for them. And so the Celtics, their last title was 16 years ago. All the other three teams had one title since then. So, it is, you could call it a title town. And obviously, if you want to include, UConn basketball in that in terms of Northeast, and then we'll see about the Connecticut Sun this year. They're having a great year too. So it is a great place to be.
And they're used to these parades after all these championships. We're getting one tomorrow. The beer will be plentiful. The duck boats will be rolling. But this team in particular, a little bit different than the Gronk Patriots or even those
the Red Sox, the idiots.
Those idiots from the Red Sox. This team is like, it feels like they don't really party. It feels like they don't let their hair
Jaylen Brown
down.
could be the smartest guy ever.
What's your
prediction?
Like, are we wrong on this, or what's your prediction? Like, you guys are kind of mistaken. This guy will really show out for the duck boats.
Well, I don't know. Look for Porzingis. He might be a guy.
That's we all called that.
Yeah, Porzingis or even Derek White. Derek White's one.
Really?
He likes to have a good time. So keep an eye on those two guys. And who knows? Maybe Missoula might say something unusual. Maybe he might let loose a little bit. We'll see.
What can you give us an update on Derek White's dental? Like,
I know, broke tooth.
Doing?
Love it.
Not sure. We'll see tomorrow if he got it fixed or if he's going to rock with it through the parade. If I were him, I think it'd be stealth for him to rock with it through the parade and get it fixed sometime next week. Yeah, I mean that's a great look on him right now. I mean that just shows it. So I think he's going to be toothless or at least with that chipped tooth through tomorrow.
Gary, you're the best, man. Thank you so much for making it work for us today. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Gary Washburn, Boston Globe. Dude covered baseball for many, many years. Then he switched over to the NBA.
He's an old-timer now.
Dude, he is an old-timer. And he just got remarried,
he
so
used
he's
to be
a
the young guy on the
newlywed. I
Globe.
know. So, all right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back.